Going on. The text has been sent. The show has started. People are ready for what we have to say. Sorry, just going through my affirmations for this episode.
Hey guys, welcome back to Testing Normal, episode buck 21.
You know what I like about that?
Correct?
It's palindrome. It's the same backwards and forwards.
Ooh.
We can refer to this episode
That is really cool.
backwards and
Palindromes
forwards.
are fantastic.
It's like Taco Cat
They're
spelled
fantastic.
backwards is Taco Cat.
Guys, we're mixing Taco Cat. We're that's amazing. That's amazing. I never thought of that one. Guys, we're mixing it up. Throwing out a Tuesday late night.
Yeah.
You know what? Because we're testing the normal. There's no normal with what nights we go live. It's something new every week potentially, right?
You know what? Things
Which
happen.
makes it kind of fun.
Yeah.
Which makes it
Well,
kinda
some
fun.
people's schedules get moved around. I'm pretty busy. I'm pretty popular. I have public engagements that I have to go to, stuff like that, you know. So
Yeah.
when duty calls.
Yeah, I usually have to. I sit on many. Well, I have many leather-bound books.
you sit on a throne of lies.
I sit on a throne of lies as far as what days I can and can't do things.
Yeah. We are almost
But,
in Buddy the Elf
guys,
season, though.
We are so close to Buddy the Elf season. Actually, technically, most people would. It seems like after Thanksgiving, it's
I don't like it.
now the common term to be Christmas.
I don't like it. People go too early. They
Yeah.
start it too early. It's like people, and if you're this kind of person, it's fine. Be offended. I don't care. That say like my birthday month, like that's a 12th of the year. I don't even like it when people say my birthday week. That's a 52nd
and
of the year.
you know,
A birthday.
to each their own. To each their own. You're not even a fan of having a birthday, though.
I just don't like
to be fair.
attention. I don't care about having a birthday. Everyone's got to have a start and an
Right.
end, right? So like, but to take a whole month, that's a little selfish. Like you just
You know
want
what?
attention.
Something that's interesting, and for those out there listening, you can tell us how you feel about it. I have become more of a fan of celebrating holidays. Like I think I've become more festive. I don't know
Really?
if it's just because my wife is super festive,
She is.
and
Yeah.
and I've started, acclimating to it.
You kind of have to be in that house.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I used to I remember growing up, and as soon as it was like holiday seasons, I would start feeling depressed.
Really?
I think it was, yeah. And I don't know if it was I think I had unhealthy expectations of holidays. I think I was like, oh man, I know I'm not going to get what I want because what I want's not realistic. And so because of that, I'm not going to enjoy it. So it's like, what's the point of it?
And now you're like,
I
I don't
think that was
care if
my
I get
mindset.
anything. I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
can see that.
Exactly. Now, my priorities change. I think it's also because as we become adults, right, we usually just, if we need something or want something, it's on us to buy it
Right.
for ourselves,
Yeah, you're
right?
like, if I can't get it, then I'm the failure.
Yeah. And so now the pressure isn't on other people, like expectations wise.
Right. It's on you.
So that kind of yeah, it's on me. So yeah, you know what? I can enjoy holidays as much as I want. To be fair though, I had wildly unfair expectations. And so little things didn't make me
Let's
happy, which was
pull
silly.
your foot back out of your mouth since your mom's listening, and you know.
Oh, I'm sure she is.
Yeah.
I'm sure she is.
I think that the holidays.
But-
do you think they'll ever get do you think you'll be disappointed again? Like at some point, is this like a sweet spot, or and you're going to go back to it,
Ooh,
or
great
what?
question.
So because birthdays,
I think it's also my kids.
like birthdays, they start out and you don't know who your friends are, and then at some
Mm-hmm,
point you know who your friends are, and then at some point you no longer know who your friends are. Like that's.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if holidays will be the same way. Like you're going to get to the point where
Good point.
you're just grumpy old man.
Grumpy old lonely man. Yeah, that could happen. That could happen.
Hopefully not
It's
lonely.
possible. Who knows?
But you could be grumpy.
Yeah, I could be grumpy. Honestly, we all can be grumpy every now
So
and
like
then.
you're at the
Hey, guys.
peak of your holiday enjoyment.
Maybe.
Potentially.
Or maybe it's just going to get crazier and crazier, and I'm going to start like dressing up like a candy cane after Thanksgiving or after Halloween.
You could dress up like a
Gonna start
candy
getting really
cane now.
I know, right? It's going to get a little weird around here, guys. I'm not going to lie. On that note, guys, we're mixing it up a little bit.
On the same note.
We're going to, on that exact identical note, we're going to mix it up tonight. And we're actually going to start the podcast with TILs. We're going to see how this feels for y'all. We're going to start with some TILs, and then we will end with some shower thoughts. So I'm going to go first because I have a few more TILs.
You do.
I believe.
You always do.
I do believe. I love the TILs. Today I learned that in World War II, or the World War II codebreaker and the father of the Turing test, Alan Turing, actually died by eating a poisonous apple.
Really?
Or a poisoned apple.
Was he trying to prove something?
I don't know.
I feel like that would make it better and worse at the same time. Like Schrodinger's apple.
You would have think that his machines would have predicted that, but I guess not.
Test it out. Here's one. Timely. Speaking of, been watching 30 Rock. There's a little bit of a Alec Baldwin in there, and he was making some gun jokes on an episode we were watching the other night. A little bit weird to watch. But with that, today I learned that Robert De Niro in The Deer Hunter requested a live cartridge in the revolver for the scene in which the subject, John, the character, to do an impromptu game of Russian roulette. So during that scene, he requested a live round be used.
He wanted to method act it.
To have it, yes. And Cazell obsessively, so the guy who had the gun, he obsessively rechecked the gun before each take to make sure that the live round wasn't in the next.
Oh my gosh.
How
crazy. That sounds like something that should have. Sounds like that set actor, whatever guy that checks all the set pieces should have been around for. Was it Alec Baldwin?
Yes.
Was that his? That just shot a lady, right? On camera. Not good. So next shower thought. That's crazy. That's amazing.
Amador says, "No, not liberal De Niro.
Not De Niro." De Niro's got some cojones on him, though. I will say. Today I learned potato.
Yep.
Today I learned that Russia is 1/9 of the world's landmass.
Whoa.
Thought that was kind of interesting. And this is what's really crazy to me, which I don't know how it can be this way totally, but I guess it makes sense. It has 11 time zones from the western portion all the way to the Pacific portion.
How many do we have?
Because it covers all of Siberia. 3?
Right, but some of them don't. I mean, you could say they're 3, but there's a couple different variations because there's a couple that don't honor daylight savings, so they become
true.
Slightly
maybe like
different.
4 or 5. I'll young Jamie it real quick.
Yeah. Oh, and Hawaii.
Oh, and Hawaii.
Good
David
one,
Patty
David.
coming in strong, bro.
Yeah, and Alaska.
Good point.
Alaska's different too.
It looks like there are 6 when you include Hawaii, Alaska, Pacific Mountain, Central, and Eastern.
Yeah, we're pretty spread out.
Fascinating. Good point. All right, I only have one more shower or TIL.
Go for it.
Today I learned that the term Wi-Fi was the invention of a brand consulting firm and actually has no technical meaning. When it first was created, it was for branding consulting. It technically didn't have a meaning. Look it up.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I'm gonna call BS on that, but okay.
Look it up. Young Jamie it. I'll while you young Jamie it, I'll start off on our first interesting topic of the night. The night. Okay. So something interesting. Of course, everybody's probably seeing on the news all of this expanding crypto talk, right? I know we talked about it quite a bit extensively lately, but it's just a big deal in the world right now. It's kind of like the tech boom, right? Or the what's it called, a .com boom, right? So some interesting things that are going on in the crypto world right now, and it's not like official stuff, but it's kind of like conversations that's been going around. One of the bigger cryptocurrencies called Cardano. Goes by the symbol ADA, correct, Jordan?
That's correct.
Accurate? ADA, I believe.
A little bit of backstory, because it does fit into what you're about to say, is that Cardano was started by Charles Hoskinson, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and he was one of the co-founders of Ethereum, and Ethereum is the number 2 like known token. If you've heard of Bitcoin, you've probably heard of Ethereum these days. He was a co-founder of Ethereum, and he broke off to start Cardano.
Exactamundo. And his mission currently is to expand within Africa right now. And he's been making kind of his rounds, starting from South Africa, working his way north.
It's quite impressive.
And he's advocating. It is. And he's advocating, he's in the process of making contracts with certain governments and certain nations within the continent of Africa to use Cardano as a platform for their currency. And which is actually not a bad idea, and actually an incredible market for this, because a lot of places in Africa right now, rather than using hyperinflated currencies that they previously had been using, a lot of them are actually using, and I didn't even know this, are using sometimes their own made up currencies, and or they're using cell phone minutes. A lot of these countries are actually for exchanging of goods. In the city specifically, they will swap back and forth cell phone minutes, which calling cards, in some ways is actually
like prepaid phone cards.
Prepaid phone cards, yeah, which in some ways is actually safer than using the currency, because you can't really lose the value of. They have an incredibly stable value, right? Which is fascinating. And so this market in particular, it will be interesting to see how Cardano expands. Obviously, there's other platforms out there, but Cardano's a pretty well-funded and well-orchestrated company that I think could continue to expand within Africa and other third world countries as well, to provide a stable currency.
Right. So the cool part about Cardano, if people don't know, I'm sure they've heard in the news, you've heard Elon say, we're not going to accept Bitcoin anymore because it uses so much energy. And it uses a lot of energy, and I'm not going to even go into the nerd out reason why I think it needs to use energy or why I don't think it's bad. But the one thing that Cardano has going for it, especially in these countries where power could be an issue, is that its network uses proof of stake and not proof of work, so it doesn't use very much energy at all. So you could technically as well, Cardano has what's called staking built into it. So if you have a Cardano wallet that has tokens in it, just by holding it in the wallet, you earn interest on it like a savings account. And you continue to hold those in a savings account and earn rewards based on how much you have in there. So it would work similar to how a cell phone minute worked, except for while the longer you hold those cell phone minutes, the more valuable they become because they actually grow over time. And then also towns could set up their own like staking nodes that don't use very much energy, and they could actually generate an income to power the Cardano network that they're using very inexpensively. And it doesn't take like graphics cards and these huge Bitcoin miners and all that kind of stuff. You can run it on a couple of Raspberry Pis. They can be just teeny tiny computers that run on USB power. That can help you to run the network. You can become a part of that system. So it's very similar, which is kind of funny. It's like a digital version of these cards they're using, which is I've heard him kind of explain it that way. And it's pretty wild that he has spent a lot of his time trying to not convert, but like utilize what he has there in a way that they can understand it. And he has a really big heart for that area. And it's kind of impressive.
Granted, there are some barriers when you're dealing with an impoverished country. You have to have, if you want to use a type of cryptocurrency, right? You need to have some form of internet access. You need to have electricity, right? You need to have a device that can then
Yeah.
function to
But a lot of those people
transfer
have
and
phones,
look up
and that's the thing, is that
information.
they can use that as their as holding
And that's
their
where
tokens.
it's kind of a really good time for this to be implemented in these regions,
Yeah, it wouldn't have
because
worked
we're
before.
finally getting to the it wouldn't have worked before, right? We're kind of getting to a point where a crescendo of technology combined with this new form of currency, and in Bitcoin's case, I don't think of it as a currency. I think of it more as an asset. But we're looking at a time where this actually could be a game changer for a lot of countries, and potentially provide a lot of safety and protection from certain forms of inflation or deflation as well.
Well, not only that, but as we saw, like I think we touched on it a little bit, but if a country falls apart, usually their networks still work. But as we saw in Afghanistan, their banks didn't work because the people weren't there. So the people that had all this money couldn't get to it. They couldn't access it. The payment systems were down and all that. But all the people that did crypto out in the sticks, they could still do it because they had a phone and they had electricity. For now, it's worked longer.
Well, and even if they couldn't access their phones in the moment, they would know that worldwide that currency was still being saved and preserved as long as they kept their passwords and special phrases.
Yep.
So another thing on the crypto world that's kind of interesting, Apple had a conversation, or Tim Cook, I guess, which is kind of synonymous with Apple.
That's what we call him.
Tim Apple, CEO of Apple, was interviewed and had a conversation specifically going into crypto. And Apple, I believe, is the #1 largest cash holder company in the world. I believe it has the largest like reserve of cash in the world.
Liquidity.
It's like liquidity. It might be wrong, but I feel like, is it in the trillions? Is that right?
They have $1 trillion valued, but I think it's not. They don't have much liquid. No.
Okay. It's an absurd amount.
If they had that much
like,
in
it's
cash,
actually,
they would have multiple
here it is.
trillions, because they also have that in their stock.
So not in stock, not in anything else. Apple has currently, this was updated recently. It says Apple has 195.57 billion cash on hand.
Just a few dollars.
So almost $200 billion of cash on hand for a company is incredible. That's incredible.
That is crazy.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it looks like they might have the most. And below that is Alphabet, which is that Google? Is Alphabet Inc. Google?
Probably. Sounds right.
I think that might. Anyhow, so Tim Cook was interviewed, and they were asking him, is Apple purchasing cryptocurrency right now to use as an asset and or to hold for value? And he's like, currently Apple's not. He himself is, but he says there is a current conversation that's taking place for Apple Pay to start sending and receiving cryptocurrency as a form of payments.
That was
because
it's kind of a given that's got to happen. Their competitors are all Venmo added it. Cash App.
Venmo, is it actually functioning in Venmo yet? Mm-hmm. I know and that PayPal, there was conversation, but
PayPal added it.
Yeah.
So that's like the 3 major ones.
I wonder how they're handling fees. Like if they're doing all the transactions on Ethereum, if they're still going to have the or the Agway.
So a lot of times what
fees.
Those people do, because if I send you crypto in Venmo, it's like I send you dollars in Venmo. It doesn't really transfer anything. It's just your account is now credited with that much. When you actually get the money is when you pull it out. It's kind of like the bank. When we all put our money into one big account, right? They don't separate it out. It's just your allotment changes when you put more money in. So that's what we call a custodial wallet. So like you think of like a non-custodial wallet is your wallet that you have in your pocket. The bank doesn't touch that cash until you put it into their wallet. And now they tell you, this is how much of the money that we all have is yours. And you hope it's there when you go to use it, right? That's how transfers work in those types of companies. So network fees would be if you. I don't think any of them allow you to send them out of those networks because it would
really?
because then it would be
Not
on them.
out of the
So
network.
they're just basically saying
Mm.
you are. So that's where if you go and look, and this kind of gets into the weeds, but like you can see these huge transfers happen. It's when people are buying Bitcoin on Cash App, or they're buying it on Coinbase, or they're buying it on whatever, and they're using US dollars to get it. They have to have that Bitcoin on hand to give out to you. So they have to go and buy more of that to move in if they run
Then
out.
you have if you're buying it though on those platforms, or if somebody's sending it to you,
Mm-hmm.
then I think you have to be able to. That wouldn't make sense if you couldn't send it to like my MetaMask wallet.
I
or something
agree with
else.
you, but that's how Robinhood's
Defeats
done
the
it
point
this
of
whole
it.
time. It is a closed door
That's true.
system that is there,
Yeah.
and you cannot send it off. And I believe Venmo's that way. I believe Cash App is that way. You can send it within that system to somebody else, but you can't.
That defeats the point of it.
Yeah.
That's
Yep, it does.
That's
And that's why I
crazy.
tell people to get into it. It's like, hey, that's
Interesting.
fine. You can like learn about it, and you can learn about its price and its value and how it works and all that kind of stuff. But if you really want to have it, bare minimum, get it on something that you can actually send it out of, because if
even Coinbase you can do that. You can send it out to anywhere. From
but as it
Coinbase.
stays in Coinbase, you don't. It is a custodial wallet. It's technically not yours until you move that to out of it. And
but
again,
you
I said
can
that gets
move
into
it,
the weeds.
and that's what's important.
I think Coinbase is better than anywhere else as far as like buying and selling it. But
I actually think it's a pretty safe platform too. Coinbase Pro is much better as far as fees go, though. Much
it's
lower,
more
like
confusing to new people.
a third the price or a fourth the price.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, interesting though. Apple's kind of expanding into it. Cardano potentially.
Yeah, it was a matter of
expanding
time
into
before
Africa.
Apple had to. And I think as soon as we get these touch payments going that way, you're going to see a lot more people that are like, hey, guess what? We're going to take it now. We're going to take it now. We're going to take it now. I mean, that's how you can tip on Twitter now, is using the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Yeah, and the only devices that I know of so far that support that is iOS. You have to use a Bitcoin wallet. You just attach it to your Twitter account, and you can tip people, creators. That
Specifically Litecoin though, huh?
No.
On Twitter, it's
the Lightning Network, which is a chain for Bitcoin. So.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying they were trading Litecoin on Twitter. I was like, interesting choice.
No, guys, don't
I was
buy
gonna say
Litecoin,
that wouldn't be.
please.
That'd be a strange.
It might go up a
crypto to
little bit
choose.
here, and you're gonna think it's great. It's dead, so please don't. Okay. I wanted to show you something kind of funny that a friend sent me this week.
Mm-hmm.
I found this super funny. His wife actually went. I think it was like a comic book store or something. I don't know why his wife's in a comic book store. I'm not gonna judge or ask questions. But she found these action figures, and they were a Joe Biden and Dr. Fauci.
No way.
And the thing that caught his eye though isn't that they're action figures. They're actually Christmas ornaments, I believe. Yeah, you can see the strings on them. But look at the top.
That's
person
hilarious.
totally baited. They got these into a store. Joe Biden, age 3+.
The toy. So on the toys.
On the toys, they have an age, and the age is
packaging, it
3+ for Joe Biden and 14 years plus for Dr. Fauci.
So the appropriate age to play with the Biden toy is 3+. The appropriate age to play with the Fauci toy is 14+. That's hilarious. That is funny. I wonder what store that was.
I don't. It was in a comic book store. He said his wife took the picture. It wasn't like somebody made the picture up or something. He's like, check this out. I'm like, what the heck?
Really funny.
Like,
that's really
how did
funny.
somebody get that through marketing, through everything with the ages on there like that? Like, that is the biggest troll.
That's a troll. You need to ask her what store that was, because I want to know. That's funny.
It was in a different state, like a long ways away. So sadly, we can't.
Dude,
we cannot go get these to put in set.
Did you guys out there listening, or Jordan, did you hear about the crazy concert that went down in Houston this week?
Oh.
No?
Maybe.
On November 6th, mon frere? So
I feel like I should know
there's
this.
a musician / rapper. had a music festival in Houston. His name's Travis Scott. He has some actually really, really good songs. But he only, very rarely does he perform live in concert.
Okay.
But one of the places where he mainly does do it, if he does, is in Houston, because that's where he's from, right? So when he does it, it's like incredibly, incredibly popular. So there's a big music festival that takes place in Houston called Astroworld. And throughout the day, it had been kind of building up, and a lot more people have been showing up there. And it's normal in concerts like this. David heard about it. Awesome. It's normal in concerts like this, right? To have, like, when it's popular in particular, have a lot of people kind of start getting closer to each other. You start getting kind of tight and constricted. But in this situation, it's even more unique because they started to continually, they didn't have a limit essentially to how many people could come in because it was an outdoor venue.
Did they not know that there's like,
they sold tickets, but it was like this
right
large outside, it was kind of like an outside field venue kind of thing. So as people started pressing more and more and more and more, people literally started getting like crushed. Like people were getting crushed.
Style,
and
right?
so mosh pit, but it was just like so many people getting squeezed together. Literally, they were suffocating. Mm-hmm. So people started passing out. And then, yes, Amador commented on this. People started passing out and then started dying in this arena or in this outdoor field. So bad that they had to call a state of emergency. The concert still was going during this time. They ended up altogether 8 people died / suffocated / went into cardiac arrest. 25 other people were hospitalized. The youngest person to die, Amador commented on this, was 14, I believe, right? 14-year-old died. A 9-year-old is on life support right now. But first of all, it's a little bit crazy to be taking a 9-year-old into a massive.
Yeah, that's what he says. He's like,
crazy,
I can't believe anyone that would take their 9-year-old there and then wants to sue because they got hurt at this concert that they unwisely decided to take a 9-year-old to.
Pretty crazy to take.
It doesn't take away from the fact that it's sad
sure.
that a 9-year-old would be injured and potentially die because of it, but it is not a wise decision, folks, to take a 9-year-old.
Right. Yeah. But it's kind of a stark kind of situation to think about. Like if you're going that night to go to a concert, go see somebody play, and then all of a sudden you find yourself with 100 people around you, and all of a sudden you find yourself, your chest starting to get tighter and tighter and tighter and harder and harder time to breathe, and there's no movement.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to this one girl get interviewed, and she was an ICU nurse actually. And she got squeezed so much that she passed out, and she woke up and people had crowd surfed her to the edge of the stadium to where like the VIP section is. And when she woke up, there was like this security there, and the security was like saying, "Hey, are you awake? Are you like trying to figure out if she's dead?" And she woke up and she saw that people close to her in proximity to her were like cyanotic, like blue. And she's like, do these people have a pulse? And they're like, we don't know. And so she checked their pulses and they didn't. So she started doing CPR, and she started directing all these different like crowd security and all these different people. Yeah. And so she was like, hey, is there an AED? She asked people like, do you have like, so we can see if this person needs defibrillated. And basically she was doing mass triage and casualty
after almost dying
management. After almost dying herself.
Wow.
Yeah. And it essentially is, it'll be interesting to see what comes from this, and if and or what type of regulations there are implemented from this, and also who's held liable. Should somebody be held liable for this situation? I'm not sure.
How would you hold someone liable for that? Like,
I know, right?
Obviously,
I guess like the venue,
they
how many people they allowed there.
But like, it doesn't sound like the venue was overpacked. It just sounds like everyone decided to go to that same area. And so is it just a crowd tactic? Like it's, I don't know, like if it all of a sudden people started to rush out of a building and, we didn't blame the Capitol for the people crushing each other.
Amador made a good point here. He was mentioning that the family members of the deceased have all started GoFundMe accounts, he said. But Travis Scott, the musician, right, the rapper that everybody mainly came there to see, is paying for all the funeral expenses for the deceased, which is respectable. And now all those family members, though, are part of a lawsuit together for, I'm guessing, some type of class action suit.
Right. Now it's just a big money grab.
There's for sure going to be money grab. Not to say it's not a horrible, tragic
yeah, it's not to take away from that. It's just, I hate when people use tragedy to be greedy, too. And maybe they're not. I guess it's just my perception, but people have done that.
And this is, dude, this is a great point, and David Patty kind of hits on a sensitive subject for me. I think a lot of lawyers are
yes,
as their job, there's conflict of interest, right? They want to get paid more, so they want to find things to sue people for. But David Patty said, and all the lawyers representing these individuals will get the bulk of the settlement. Sure. Yes, you're right, David. Exactly. 100%, brother. 100%. So frustrating all around, sad all around. And there needs to be some type of lawsuit, tort reform in the world, I think.
Yeah.
But
all that to say, we don't like
personal
pulpit. Like, they shouldn't be making that much money and be greedy like that. But again, there's the people then that would go out and hire them. So maybe they shouldn't hire them. Maybe you're creating the problem that, Yeah.
Society.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So what happened to Gavin Newsom?
So I don't know. I wanted to bring this up, and I'm not even going to put up the article because the article makes some assumptions that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think it's weird. So the assumption that they think, and I'm not going to say the words because everyone will know what it is, and I don't want YouTube to pull us down because I'm not going to even start that argument, is that people think it's because the dude took some medication for the third time and that he's maybe sick because of that and disappeared. I don't think that, but it is strange that he has disappeared and has not made a reappearance and hasn't been seen publicly for days. They said it was for like a family thing, but nobody can find that on record of anything. And he's been acting super strange since this whole like election thing went down, and California's been all strange. And let's be real, the whole West Coast has been weird. But for him to be missing, I just want to bring it up. It's strange to me that this guy who is, I mean, you think of like our governor and you think not a big deal, right? Like it's a person, but we're not a very big state. California is like the world's third largest economy in and of itself or something. Like, so he is kind of like a president within our country that rules that state, and he's missing.
Yeah.
This is nearly as big of a deal as like when Kim Jong-il disappeared, like, and nobody knew where he was. Is he dead? Is he?
Well, and the thing that's strange is like, if you're gone for 2 weeks, basically, or close to 2 weeks,
right.
You still could have some type of picture released of you,
right,
showing what you're doing. Like in these tweets or comments, basically, it's saying that he's working on different legislation, state budget, economy recovery, public events said they're coming up soon.
But you wouldn't be weird about it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
interesting.
Yeah. It's just,
I think
super
also,
strange.
Yeah, I think also it's fair to say Gavin Newsom is a super weird dude.
I don't understand
like
why he
comes across like a robot.
Yeah.
Doesn't he look like robot/lizard person?
He comes across to me as a guy who is being told what to do and doing it. And that's why he is where he is. But I would say that about a lot of our governors. I would say that about Washington's governor and Oregon's governor as well. It's either, oh, your microphone fell. Yes.
Everything's good. No worries.
No worries. No worries. But in that same vein of rulers, right? Because I would say he has not governed, he has ruled his state. Because there's so many freedoms gone. I would say the same thing about our governor, and don't have anything nice to say about Washington's governor. But
honestly, I don't even know the name of Washington's governor.
Inslee.
Oh, really?
So Xi from China, their ruler, is rumored to be releasing a new doctrine to their country that would allow him to rule for the rest of his life.
I thought he already did. I thought there was some law passed within the Chinese government that
it looks like they're trying to pass it. Maybe they've passed it by now, but this is according to 2 days ago. It's they're
Let me
calling for a
see. Let me
resolution to do
see.
so.
China is waiting to see if President Xi Jinping becomes the third. Okay, so two other Communist Party
Have done it,
leaders
have
have done
introduced
so.
legislation to do so, and he's trying to do it again. I just think it's the state of our world is not in a great place anyway. And we've got the hill people running one tiny country that's trying to be taken over by a country that is trying to write legislation so that a guy can rule till he dies. And their whole country is suffering, and they're sitting on the top of a housing collapse, owing United States banks like $600 billion. There's just not a lot great going on for this dude. And now he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to double, triple, quadruple down all in on this one. I think I got this. Like, it just,
well, there's something that is enticing him to be the leader, right? And
power.
Ultimate power corrupts ultimately. Is that what it is?
Something
right?
like
something
that.
like that, or
absolutely.
something along
absolute
those
power
lines.
corrupts absolutely.
Right, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so if you're in a situation where, I think that phrase, I don't think you can go wrong. Like, I feel like if you're in a situation where you have absolute power over a country or a nation state, absolute power is going to have, no matter what, in some ways, it's going to corrupt you. It's just
and I
the
think
way
that's
of
why it's important
human nature
that we have term limits, because people can't have absolute power. So like, if you look back in our history, people wanted to basically, even after they left it, right? So we're talking like way back, George Washington, first president, they wanted to elect him king because he did so well.
GW, yeah.
And he didn't. And he didn't want to do it because he knew that would set a precedence that was bad. So he did. I mean, imagine if he didn't. Imagine if he hadn't set that precedence and held steady to that and said, no, that's not the way this is supposed to be. I wish more people would do that. I think that I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, I don't have time to do these types of things. Who do we get to elect to do these? I was like, you know what? I was like, I understand what you're saying, and I thought that for a long time. But I think we're coming to a point in our lives where we all need to realize it should take a few years of not sacrifice, but it is sacrifice in a way, but civic duty that you volunteer of your time, depending on your talents, and then you help, and then you get out and you go back to doing what you were doing. And I think we've lost that. We just want a politician to do it. Just let them do it. Well, we can see they're terrible at having our best interest in mind.
And something I think that goes with this is society having an awareness and a self-awareness, right? George Washington had a self-awareness of how dangerous it is potentially for himself, right, to be a leader, and why that, or not a leader, but to be ultimate power, right? And that's what they were trying to get away from in Europe, right? They were trying to get away from kingship. They were trying to get away from ultimate power corrupts ultimately. I don't know if I'm saying that, whatever. There you go. Thank you. But there's the last thing I wanted to bring up tonight is there was an interesting meta-analysis study that came out, and it was basically, it took place between 2003 and 2018. Okay, and it was a meta-analysis from basically the Western world, and it looked at 70 different studies collected over that period of time. And there was a significant change that they were able to observe, basically over that close to 20-year period, in a notable decrease in emotional intelligence among college students. And this was interesting. So you're wondering, okay, well, what does emotional intelligence mean?
I think it's more important.
And what they defined it as, and what they looked at specifically, the questions and the surveys and the tests, emotional intelligence pertain to perceptions of your own well-being, perceptions of how good we are at regulating our own emotions, and then understanding other people's emotions and potentially influencing other people's emotions. And it was interesting to see the decline in it, and what they saw as not necessarily causation, but correlation within that. And every country that started implementation of certain, this was interesting, certain social media platforms and certain technology platforms that were surrounding those social media platforms, that's when there was a decrease specifically correlated with that emotional intelligence. Yeah. And the main countries were like United States, Canada, UK, Australia, and then some like other European countries as well. Yeah. But it goes to show, like, as society changes and technology changes, we're gaining so much, but there's also a potential risk of losing a lot of intelligence in the forms of interactions and learning how to have empathy and or healthy emotional intelligence if you just have communication over Twitter.
I think that it's sad that at the very end of this article, the person writing it, I'm sorry, they are not intelligent. They say, overall, the meta-analysis suggests that the social cultural changes can influence aspects of emotional intelligence. Number one, I think their definition of emotional intelligence is very immature. But if future studies are able to, this is what they say, if future studies are able to pinpoint the factors behind those changes, mental health professionals will have a better idea. I'll tell you what the factor is right now. We already know, because studies have already been done on this that aren't meta, and they are that emotions work like muscles, and when they are put into a bubble and only are told what they want to hear, they become like a snowflake. And when they get outside of that and they have their identity, which is now what they believe, and it shouldn't be, mind you, your identity, when it gets called into question by somebody else's different idea, they crack under pressure. Emotional intelligence is how you react and how you interoperate with other people that may not be the same as you. So, I mean, it's you're dumb when it comes to intelligence, or when it comes to emotions. That's what emotional intelligence is. And they don't even define that in this. So this article in and of itself kind of shows how immature this person is emotionally, because they don't even understand.
Well, no. That article is defining what the definitions of the study of that meta-analysis were.
Then the study was bunk.
It's defining. No, I think it's reasonable. It's using a broad spectrum. When you do a meta-analysis, especially, you can't have super defined definitions. You have to have more of broad definitions to collect the meta-analysis data.
Right, but they don't come to a conclusion. That's where I think they weren't.
Oh yeah, the conclusion is
terrible.
Is they're working around it, but the article itself, I think, is a really good representation, and it's a good thing to recognize that certain aspects of social media is having a pronounced effect on our youth and their emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I think the article also points out that these people have no idea themselves how they feel, and they're emotionally unintelligent. Like, honestly, I've just reading what I've read, which isn't a very long article. They don't understand it themselves because they're not applying it. They're not doing it.
Yeah, they're beating around the bush, right? Yeah. They're trying to be careful.
They're pandering to the thing they say is the problem, instead of just coming out and saying it.
But here's the thing. Also, to their credit, at least they're saying there is a problem with that emotional intelligence, whereas a lot of people aren't even addressing the issue.
That's about the only thing I could say good about this.
I think
article.
you have to recognize that at the bare minimum.
I think it's a good thing to point out. I don't think they're doing a good job of defining it or coming to a conclusion, because they're afraid, probably because the audience that's reading this is the one that they're wanting to talk to, and they know that they're going to fall apart if they disagree with it.
Well, that's it, right? So it's like they know that they have to, because of that lack of emotional intelligence, they have to learn how to work up their muscles, I guess, right? You wouldn't make a 5-year-old lift 145 pounds.
Well, I would. 5 pounds. I'd tell them to try, and when they couldn't, I'd say, "See, I'm stronger than you, you little weakling." Like, now you know. That'll work. Now you know your limits. Let's work our way up. Sure. Yeah.
Oh man. So that's most of the main subjects we got tonight, guys.
That's all of them.
That's all. Actually, we did good. We knocked them all out. It's rare that we actually hit all of our topics. No. Yeah, that's awesome. We're gonna hit some shower thoughts for y'all. Shower time. You actually have more tonight, so I'm gonna let you start us off.
One of yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Yes. Let me see. So I have 1, 2, 3. if I take yours out.
Okay. All right, you go first.
Okay. There's a chance, all you snowflakes out there that I just hurt your feelings, that someone you know will use your death as an excuse to get out of a social obligation that they don't want to go to.
Ooh, I say
There's a,
take it.
yeah,
I
actually,
feel
that was
like
my thought
if
when I
that's
read it.
if that's the least that I can do, love it. That's my good deed.
You know what's
man.
really funny is I knew when I wrote that, or not when I wrote it, when I put it into my notes, I was like, I know exactly what Curtis is going to say. He's going to be like, yeah, and they should take that opportunity. I did this for them.
That's hilarious. Thank me.
Yeah,
you son of a gun.
now.
I died for you.
Go write a Facebook post about me.
That's hilarious. Love it. Okay. If you find $100 bill on the ground and it takes you a second to pick it up, for that brief moment, you are making exactly $360,000 per hour.
This is the one we had doubled up.
Love it.
And I had to go do the math. I was like, wait, that's wrong. Nope, it's not. I thought it.
That's real money.
I thought it was a minute.
That's cash money.
And that is less. There's a guy I talked to today who said, I'm $200 away from making 10 grand this month in NFTs. And I was like, what? All right.
Meta, baby.
And then he told me, he's like, and I have 650 of them left over to just sell. They're all in the profit.
Nice.
What?
Rolling
Oh my gosh. Okay. Stories usually put horns on evil or scary creatures. But in nature, only herbivores have horns.
Really? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I've definitely seen deer eat birds.
Deer?
Yes. You can look up YouTubes of it. It's wild.
Okay.
They literally, like, if there's
Maybe
a bird on a
mad.
fence, sometimes you'll see a deer walk up and they'll eat.
But generally speak, I mean, like, yeah, but they're an herbivore. Like, they're not an omnivore. Maybe that one deer is, but it's not a common thing that deer catch birds.
Not common. I'll give you common. Yeah. I'll give you common.
It's not very likely ever that a deer eats a bird.
Next time you guys are eating bread and you see the tiny little holes in the bread, just remember that those little holes are technically yeast farts. Just remember that.
True. And they're alive.
Technically.
That's why the dough is sour.
Delicious. It makes me hungry, actually.
What you doing? I'm just going to make a yeast fart sandwich over here.
Hey, babe. Can you give me some yeast fart sandwiches real quick?
Put some peanut butter on those yeast farts. Okay. As data showing the effects of sugar on the human body become more well known, future generations will look back with horror on our practice of sending children out to trick or treat.
Ooh, fascinating. Yeah, maybe, perhaps. Yeah, unless everything turns into what is it called? Stevia treats or something.
This has got to be, but that's not sugar. This has got to be from
what happened?
He said no pictures or it didn't happen. The deer eating. I think he's talking about the deer eating a bird.
Oh
yeah,
no.
Yeah, if you don't have
pictures
video of that, like
but then David just said, he's like, we YouTubed it. They totally do. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I like that they stopped to watch a video of a deer eating a bird. Like YouTube's algorithm is now completely broken for you for at least a week. They're like, wait, hang on. They like deer eating birds? Yeah. What video do I give them next? Why are we
seeing all these creepy animal things?
Yeah.
You guys, I'm proud of them for fact checking for us. They might have to be our young Jamies next. Okay, I think I have one more shower thought. Let me see. Oh yeah, gyms,
like people,
athletic gyms.
Okay, GYM.
Athletic gyms are a place where the customer works harder than the employee.
Oh, I've seen some of those gym rats.
Can be.
Oh wait, the area where this does not play true is like spin classes. Those instructors, no one can match that. Like,
that's true. Spin classes, yeah, maybe even like CrossFit.
And they probably do more than one of those.
Probably, yeah, that's true. Good point. Are you all showered out? Did you give us all? You got any more?
That's it, man.
I think that's it. Guys, thank you so much for logging in. Thank you so much for listening to us. If you haven't yet, hit that little bell notification, subscribe, so that way when we log on, you'll get a little notification and you can come join the party. We appreciate you all.
And
I hope you all
I do believe we'll be
week.
here on Tuesday next week too, just for those of you who join us live. Yeah. So
Tuesdays for the next few weeks.
Yeah. Somebody has Monday night parties on that
Monday night work parties. Yeah. Not party, work. Boom. Cool. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a fantastic week. And we will chitty chat with y'all later.
See you guys. Bye.